So may I begin with a chant which I used to listen from Swami Atmapriyananda of revered memory, time and again. 2 verses from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. And these 2 verses are proverbially used to salute the Guru at the time of sannyasa, or you will know. And the other 2, well known, asking the Supreme Divine to take us from the unreal to the real, from light to darkness, from darkness to light, and from death to immortality. And the last 2, composed by Swami Vivekananda in honor of his Guru, although he does not mention Sri Ramakrishna's name. So I'll begin with the chant because it has been in my unconscious for decades since I listened to them from Atmapriyananda ji. And they're appropriate also to this occasion. Om yo brahmanam vidadhati purvam yo vai vedanscha prahinoti tasmai tamhadevam atma buddhi prakasham mumukshuru vai sharanamaham prapadye nishkalam nishkriyam shantam niravadyam niranjanam amritasya param setum dagdhendhanamivanalam om asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya aviravirmayedhi rudrayatte dakshinam mukham tena mam pahi nityam om shanti 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 om shakti samudra samutsatarangam darshita prema vijrumbhitarangam samshaya rakshasa nasha mahastram yami gurum sharanam bhava vaidyam advaya tattva samahita chittam projvala bhakti patavrita vrittam karma kalevara madhubuta cheshtam yami gurum sharanam bhava vaidyam naradeva deva jaya jaya naradeva. The subject this morning, as you know, is the harmony of the 4 yogas, a unique concept which was propounded and propagated, promulgated by Swami Vivekananda for the first time perhaps in the history of religion. The word yoga is well known, and usually we say in Sanskrit, it comes from the yuj dhatu, the verbal root, which has several meanings. Among them, 2 are very famous. Yuj means to unite, to yoke, and Vedavyasa, the commentator in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, takes it to be meditation. Yoga samadhihi, that's a statement. Yoga is samadhi, yoga is meditative awareness, rather than uniting. Usually the word yoga means to unite, but in the context of Patanjali, the famous Acharya of the yoga, the Patanjali Yoga Sutras was his composition, it is not so much uniting than disuniting. There is a famous verse in the Gita, Viyoga yoga uchyate. Yoga is not uniting but disuniting. Disuniting what? Look at our life. We should remember in this context that these great sayings by the Acharyas and the saints and sages of India are not theology, are not even philosophy, are not metaphysics, are not even religion. They are just observations about our daily life and existence, asking certain simple, naive questions of them and coming back with very profound answers. So they don't theorize, they don't speculate, they don't theologize. Just look at our life, what's happening to us. Our life consists of 2 factors. One is we, the conscious beings, whatever that means, Consciousness is the word which is being debated. Consciousness studies is everywhere. And we want to understand what is consciousness, little realizing we are consciousness. We are conscious beings. Life and consciousness are not the same, incidentally, in the Indian parlance. In the Western world, life and consciousness are mixed up. In the Indian thought, life is called prana and consciousness is called chaitanya. Now we are the conscious beings, live, look at, taste, see, hear in this world which is matter. This is just simple. I and you, these are the two elements in this world. So much so, the great Bhashyakara, the commentator Sri Shankara, began his magnum opus, the commentary on the Brahma Sutras, on the Vedanta Sutras, by saying, Yushmat Asmat Pratyayoho Vishaya Vishayinoho. Yushmat Pratyaya is the you, Asmat Pratyaya is the I. The entire world consists of me and you. And the Western philosophers also will say self and the other. This is the idiom which they speak about. The self on the one hand, the other on the other hand. These are the two things we consist. Consciousness is what sees, what experiences, what knows, what tastes through the senses. And that which is being known by consciousness usually goes by the name of matter, which is unconscious. In Sanskrit, we call the other as jada and this as the chaitanya. Now, very interestingly, we do not know when. In beginningless time, these two came together. Just like in the human body. What is the human body? We have the body on the one hand, and we have the mind, whatever you mean by it. And beyond it, there is something which says, I know this. I have a pain in the body. I have an elation in the mind. So I feel I am separate from the mind and the body. There is something within the body and the mind and beyond it which says, I know, I experience. The experiencer and the experienced are two objects which have come together. In Sanskrit, it is famously called Chit Jada Granthi. Granthi means a knot. You put them together. Chit is the Chaitanya, the consciousness. And Jada is the insentient entity which is known as an object. So one is the subject which knows, the other is the object which is known. These are the two entities in this world. There is nothing else. For some reason, we do not know why, these have come together. And interestingly, the characteristics of the Chit or the Chaitanya have been superimposed upon matter, which is Jada, and vice versa, the characteristics of the Jada have been superimposed upon consciousness. When I have pain in the body, I feel I have great pain. I have a headache, I said I am not well because I have a headache. The head is not well, the body is not well, but I say I am not well. The characteristics of the body have been superimposed on consciousness, which feels that I am not well, little realizing that consciousness can't be unwell. It is the body which is unwell, and the unwellness of the consciousness has been superimposed for some strange reason upon consciousness. And vice versa, consciousness which is eternal and infinite, which is supreme, has its characteristics superimposed upon the body. I feel the body will live eternally. Nobody can imagine that he or she can die. So the dharma are the characteristics of one has been superimposed to that. This is called in Sanskrit, in Vedanta, as itaretara adhyasa. Itara, itara. One superimposed on the other and vice versa. Adhyasa is superimposition. This is a fact of existence. It is not theology, it is not philosophy, it is not metaphysics, it is not religion. This is what you see. This is what you experience in the daily life. Now, when you go into this experience of daily life, I see that I, as consciousness, has somehow got mixed up with the Jada Prakriti, or the matter which is the nature. And I have somehow come to believe, wrongly or rightly, that I am this matter. I am this body, I am this mind, I am this intellect. And they have come close together in such a way that it's very difficult to extricate one from the other. The whole effort in yoga, whether it be Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, is to find out how consciousness can somehow extricate itself from the clutches of matter and remain alone in its own glory. Therefore, yoga is aloneness beyond loneliness. We know what is loneliness. This is the glory of aloneness. The famous poet Shelley has a line, from the alone to the alone. You have been alone, shining in your glory. Somehow you got mixed up with matter, and now the effort is to go back to your pristine state of existence. Therefore, Patanjali will say the effort of yoga, the result of yoga is tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. This seer, who is the Atman, who is consciousness, tada then, swarupe, in his own glory, avasthanam, he stay puts. Just to be stay put in your real pristine state is yoga. There is no reason you strayed away from it. Unfortunately, we did. We do not know why we did it, when we did it. When and why are things which have been debated in philosophy, in religion, in science. Science is asking, when did this universe begin? In New York, there's a beautiful museum, a planetarium. We went to that recently. 10 million years ago, there's a Big Bang. Who saw it? It looks like the Indian Puranas, stories. But when science says it, when scientists say it in English and German, you believe it. When India says it in Sanskrit, it's all myths. This is what is called scientific superstition. This is the word used by Swami Vivekananda. Swamiji said, Huxley says it, Tyndall says it. We swallow without a salt, but if our rishis say that, then it's not acceptable because we are not powerful. We need to be politically, financially, militarily powerful to be able to be heard. We do not know. 10 million years ago, they showed all the galaxies coming together. It was a very fascinating story, like the Harry Potter story. But it's very entertaining. We do not know the truth about it. Science does not know. Religion also does not know. One thing you should always remember, human mind has been exploring the mystery of creation, why we are, what we are, where we came from, how did the whole thing happen, unsuccessfully. But you have certain models. This is what science also does. Do not think science is superior or religion is inferior. No. None of these is superior or inferior. Only human mind wants to create certain models by which to try to probe into the mystery of creation, mystery of universe. You may ask, what is the purpose of inquiring into this at all? I'm happy. A sunny morning, Sunday morning. Why waste time coming to the Hollywood Center listening to religious talks? There are plenty of things outside we can enjoy. This is all that you have. In Christianity, you have one birth theory, unlike Hinduism, which have many births. We have several chances. Like earlier when we used to have the cricket test matches, we have several chances. We go on and on. Nowadays, we have only one innings. You have to finish your life with this. So time is running out. You're just this birth. Don't waste time listening to talks. See this world and enjoy it. This is what Ingersoll, the famous atheist, told Swami Vivekananda when he met him. Robert Ingersoll is a very powerful mind. He told Swami Vivekananda, "Oh, you are an Indian guru. I hear you talking about immortality of the soul, talking about reaching the infinite and the absolute. I don't believe in all this. Sir, you have an orange. Squeeze it dry and enjoy. This is the life which you have. Why do you waste time on all this speculation?" You know what was Swami Vivekananda's reaction? A remarkable man, a ready wit, he never entered into argument. He said, "Oh, Mr. Ingersoll is exactly what I'm also preaching. Come, we are together on the same page. Only, I'm telling you, I have a different way of squeezing the orange. I know I have no death, and therefore I am not afraid. I know I am timeless, and therefore I take my own sweet time. I am not in a hurry. Squeeze the orange in my way, and you will get every drop." This is what yoga does. If you ask, what is the purpose by which we are asking these fundamental questions? Why should we at all? The answer is, the human mind just can't rest without asking these questions. Human mind has been made to ask certain fundamental questions about itself. Probing into oneself is a fundamental right of the human psyche, and you just can't rest. In the discovery of India, the magnum opus of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of Free India, it's a remarkable book. We had pieces from that book when we were studying school. He is asking this question. Suppose you say, why these fundamental questions need to be asked? Then ask you a counter question, why do people go for adventure? You go for mountaineering, and you have a rock climbing. It's a very difficult task, which can be performed by a rat or a lizard so fast and so effortlessly, and man is trying to imitate a lizard or a rat unsuccessfully. He may risk his life. You will go for an Everest expedition. You may risk your life. You may not come back. But there's a deep urge in the human heart by which to excel, by which to go, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Tennyson's line, the Ulysses. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. You do not know why the human mind is seeking, but there's an adventure. There's a great joy in adventure. Vivekananda said, the Western mind, the European mind, they wanted to seek adventure outside. India discovered long ago there's a great inner world in which exploration is much more fantastic. The world of insight, the mind, the spirit. You go on exploring into this layers of new truths come to you, and you rejoice and document these truths. That's where we excelled. You excelled the other way, and both of them are equally necessary for human progress. The mistake we did in India, Vivekananda points out, lopsidedly we went for the inner exploration and neglected the outer exploration. The mistake the Western world did was explore the outside to the neglect of the inner. Now a time has come, Vivekananda's declaration, East and the West will come together, and science and religion will shake hands, poetry and philosophy will become friends. This is the religion of the future. In the Jnana Yoga lectures he points out. Time is coming, people are coming together and asking fundamental questions about ourselves. So we have somehow come together, the matter and the spirit, and the spirit is trying to struggle to get out of the clutches of matter. Disuniting, disconnecting from matter, what is proverbially called Chidjada Granthi Chedana. Cutting this knot of Chidjada Granthi, Christ also said, cut the Gordian knot. Gordian knot is, we know what is Gordian knot. That's the Chidjada Granthi. Cut it. How? By Vairagya, dispassion and detachment. Ashvattamenam subirudhamulam asanga shastrena dridhena chitva. The Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter. This tree, very funny tree, which has roots above and branches below. Urdhvamulam adhashakam ashvattham prahuravyayam. What is the name of this tree? It's called Ashvattha. Shva in Sanskrit means tomorrow. Shvastha, that which will exist till tomorrow, is called Shvattha. That will not exist till tomorrow is called Ashvattha. The name of samsara, this transmigratory existence, which cannot be expected to last even till tomorrow. We are not sure what's going to happen to us tomorrow. I always tell my students, we plan so much, next 5 years what I should be. And there is a science called the management science, and the management people are really fond of planning. Perspective planning, 15 years, 5 years, 10 years. There must have been several conferences on 10th of September 2001 in the Twin Towers in New York, where there will be hundreds of companies there. And there must have been several conferences in which people should be asking, where do I see our company 5 years hence? And projections are made and statistics galore. And then the curve goes up. That's where I see my company. Where was the company on the 11th of September? This is life. Life is so fragile, so flimsy, so uncertain. The uncertainty of existence is depicted by this Ashvattha tree, which is not expected to remain even till tomorrow. You can't really predict this shall we exist till tomorrow. So this tree has to be cut. How? Asanga shastrena, by a weapon which is a very sharp weapon, which is a very stout weapon, which is called asanga, detachment. Now yoga is actually viyoga, disassociation of consciousness Chaitanya from jada, which is prakriti. That's what the Gita says, viyogam yoga uchyate. Yoga is actually viyoga. That is one aspect of yoga. Now look at human life once again. Let us not go to philosophy. We have several faculties of the mind, which is well known in psychology. Rational human beings think through the mind. You have thoughts, you have ratiocination, you have logic, you have reason. You have a consistent thoughts. And you want to analyze through the mind and find out what's happening. This analytical faculty, the reasoning faculty of the human mind, is a very fundamental faculty of a reasonably enlightened person. Can the faculties of the human mind be harnessed to explore into this mystery of consciousness and to get consciousness or Chaitanya detached from the matter of the Prakriti? What we are asking is a very simple question. What are the resources which we have to undertake this exploration? The only resources which you have, the body and the mind. And the body, of course, is jada, is matter. So the mind has certain faculties which can be harnessed. The powers can be harnessed to undertake this exploration. One is the reasoning faculty. Reasoning faculty has two aspects. This is where Indian wisdom steps in. Unfortunately, in English, we have only the word mind for everything. The moment you say mind, a wise Indian person will ask you, oh, by mind, you mean the chitta? You mean the antakarana? You mean the buddhi? You mean the manas? You mean dhi? You mean pragya? There are half a dozen or more words which mean the mind in several subtler and subtler layers of the mind. This is where India and Asia have excelled because we went for inner exploration. Unlike the West, which went for the outer exploration, and Sanskrit is awfully lacking in words to describe scientific terms. They will say anu, paramanu. Now science will ask you, do you mean atom? Do you mean the nucleus? Do you mean the proton? Do you mean the neutron? Do you mean the Higgs boson, which is now dancing on the stage? The so-called God particle, where God is not there anyway. You know the story of the God particle? Higgs boson, Higgs was a very old man, recently got the Nobel Prize because of his discovery. I wrote an article, Higgs boson could not be detected. So somebody wrote an article, God damn particle, it can't be found. The expression which we normally use, God damn it. And the editor found that damn is a very unparliamentary word to be used in print. Removed the damn, it became God particle. That is the history of God particle. Anyway, so you are asking these questions with the mind. Now, what is the function of the mind? What does mind do? Mind thinks. What is meant by thinking? There are thoughts in the mind. Is the mind full of thoughts, or is mind thoughts themselves? I'll ask you a simple, I'll give you a poser. 100 people are sitting here. A crowd of people came. All the people left, but the crowd remains. Does it make sense? The crowd is the people. When the people are not there, the crowd vanishes. In exactly the same way, when there are no thoughts in the mind vanishes. It is not that mind consists of thoughts. Mind is thoughts. If you accept this position and understand it carefully, the mind is a series of thoughts. The Buddha said that, we discussed it recently. The Buddha said what we call the I is only a projection from out of the thought. You say I. This is a constant emotion which is welling up. The I thought is the fundamental thought over which the entire thought structure is built. The moment you remove the I thought, the entire structure collapses. When you get up just in the morning, transition from the sleep to the waking, if you are extremely diligent, careful, awakened, you will see the first thought which arises in your mind is the I. All the other thoughts cling on to this I and follow. There was a survey done years ago by the American Psychological Association. Americans are very fond of doing surveys. If you look at we get funny surveys in the Harvard University team. They made a survey. Do women yawn more than the men? And the huge survey done. Of course, somebody gets a PhD for it, good enough. So I made a very interesting survey. What is the most commonly used word in the English language? You can easily guess it. I. The most commonly used. And very rarely a person uses his own name to announce himself or herself. Somebody knocks at the door, ring at the calling bell. Who is it? It's me. Who? Oh, then call on the telephone. Hi, how are you? It's I. You don't say your name initially. This has been analyzed by India, and they discovered the I is the name of your higher self, the Atman. The Atman is called Aham. And therefore, everybody constantly uses the word I without knowing what is the nature of this I. Therefore, Bhagavan Shankara, the great commentator, says, in a sense, everybody is a self-realized soul. Atmagya. Only they do not know what is the true nature of the self. Everybody uses the word I without knowing what is the true nature of I. And therefore, the necessity for exploration, for going investigation, called Mimamsa. In the Indian literature, philosophy and religion, we have never taken anything for granted. Just like it's in science, you explore, investigate. It's called Mimamsa, Jigyasa. Jigyasa means inquiry. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Now, therefore, there will be inquiry into the nature of Brahman. Athato Dharma Jigyasa. Now, therefore, there will be inquiry into the nature of Dharma or religion. Everything is Jigyasa. And finally, you come to Mimamsa, conclusion. Now, you ask what is the nature of this I. Constantly use the word I everywhere. And you ask, where is the I? Where is it located? What is the nature of this I? The mind which is inquiring into this is of the nature of thoughts of which the I is a part. Look at the complication. You are trying to analyze the thought I through the mind of which the I thought is a part. Which means the mind has to fall back upon itself and analyze itself. Those of you who have read this Swamiji's Raja Yoga, he begins with this sentence. Raja Yoga is investigation of the mind by the mind, because you don't have anything else to investigate with. The only instrument you have is the mind, and you are investigating into the nature of the mind through the mind. So in a sense, it's a self-reflective phenomenon, a reflexive phenomenon, which makes it very, very difficult. So some people have said, how is it possible, the mind analyzing itself? So let us divide the mind into two, the higher mind and the lower mind. See how the models are developed. I'm trying to tell you, the various models in Vedanta, in philosophy, and in science have been developed. When you're pushed to the wall, how can the mind analyze itself? All right, let us have a lower mind and a higher mind, and the higher mind analyze the lower mind. Now it's not clear, but you think it's clear. From the feeling that is clear, you proceed on, finally to realize that nothing is clear. So the higher mind is given a different name. You have to name it. The lower mind is called manas. These are Vedantic terminologies. The manas, what does the manas do? Manas thinks. When it thinks, it has a will. It says, I should do this. There is a talk in the Hollywood Society at 11 o'clock. Shall I go? Oh, I'm not feeling quite well. Let me go, let me not go. To be or not to be, that is the question. Shakespeare. This is called Sankalpa and Vikalpa. Sankalpa is, I shall go. You get ready, and then you feel slightly uneasy. Let me not go. Somebody says, oh, you were about to start. I am just wondering whether I should go or not go. This indecision about going or not going is the mind. It's called Sankalpa Vikalpatmak Manas. That is the Vedantic terminology. Sankalpa is the thesis. Vikalpa is the antithesis in terms of Hegelian dialectics, which Marx followed. I come from a land of Marx, from West Bengal. So this dialectical movement of the mind from one position oscillates to the opposite position, from a thesis to antithesis. This oscillatory mind is called the lower mind. It's unable to decide. Then suddenly the higher mind comes and informs it, now you shall go in spite of all difficulties. Don't miss this. Yeah, I shall go. The mind cannot itself decide that I shall go. There is a different part of mind which is the higher mind. We call that buddhi. Buddhi is not intellect, because English is awfully inadequate to be able to explain these words. Buddhi, J. Krishnamurti explained it as intelligence rather than intellect. There is a higher intelligence, you may call it intuition if you like, which informs the lower mind, Sankalpa Vikalpatmak Manas, and tells it to decide. called Nischayatmika Buddhi. There is a Sanskrit word. Nischay means certainty, determination. The determinative faculty, which is called Vyavasatmika Buddhi in the Gita, the mind which is decisive, the mind which comes to certain conclusions, the intuitive faculty by which you decide anything in life. Whole of life is a series of decisions, isn't it? You look at life, at every moment you have to decide. Those of you who come from different countries to America, how much time it took to decide whether you go, settle down, go back, how long, how much. From the day you are born, somebody decides for you for some time. After some time, go to school. Should I study science or humanities? Humanities, what will you do? In science, shall I study computer science or study something else? At every point, you find yourself in crossroads to be able to decide this or that, choose. That's why management science has become so important these days, because the whole of management science is a series of decision making. There's a story about a demon who could immediately do anything at once. The demon was told, create a forest here. Done, sir. What else? Demolish this 10-story building. Done. What else? Then somebody said, how to tackle this demon? Give him a basket of mangoes or oranges and said, you see, look at the size. This is size A, this is size B, slightly smaller, this is C, and the smallest is D. Sort them out. Hours went by, days went by, it's struggling. What happened to you? Sir, it's a problem of decision making. I thought this is A and put it there, and the next one was B. Then I found this seems to be smaller than that. I put this from this basket to that basket. I keep on doing it without being able to decide. So the capacity to be able to decide correctly, precisely, truly, and well is the capacity which belongs to the higher mind or the buddhi. The buddhi is called the dhi. The Gayatri Mantra speaks about it. Dhiyo yo naf prachodayat. Dhi, the plural is dhiya. So when you apply the higher intelligence, which is the buddhi, and the buddhi is purified, one-pointed, and focused upon the higher self or consciousness, the consciousness is revealed. That's why you harness the powers of the mind to be able to understand that which is beyond the mind, through the mind, and working by the mind. What kind of a mind? The mind which is purified. Drishyate tvagriya buddhya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibhihi kathoparishad. This is seen by seers who are well versed in seeing the subtle things. By what? Sukshmaya sukshmadarshibhihi. Agriya buddhya, extremely pointed, purified, focused buddhi. So there's capacity to be able to intuit this higher self or the Atman or consciousness and know that this consciousness somehow which has got inextricably intertwined with the Jada Prakriti or the matter can shine alone by itself, independent of itself. This is called the Jnana Yoga. Very simple. Appears to be difficult. All that you need to do is to sharpen your higher intelligence, which is the capacity by which you decide. All of us have it. In moments of intuition, we come with the right decision. Those of you who have done science, you will know in research. You are struggling with some problem. You are unable to find the solution. Suddenly something happens to you. All the great discoveries in science have happened through intuition and not through oscillatory sankalpa vikalpatmak manas. And in extreme cases of geniuses like Srinivasa Ramanujan, the mathematical genius of India, they are just revealed to him like that. That revelation is the intuitive understanding of the higher self. So Jnana Yoga teaches you a technique by which you intuit the higher self by sharpening and purifying and focusing the higher mind, which is the buddhi. So you look at your own mind, and we have this power of intuition. All of us have, because we decide. Decision is a very difficult thing which we do. Marriage is a very vital decision which people make. whom to marry, how to marry, where to marry. Because the whole life you are stuck up with that person. Great risk. And all of you have taken this challenge. Wonderful. We always feel, how do people decide on marriage? Once you are stuck there, of course in India, you are stuck for life. So someone tells you this is the right person. And elders help you, the astrologers are there to help you. So we have this power of intuition, but we have to develop it, sharpen it, and purify it. So the underpinning exercise in Jnana Yoga and all the yogas is purification of the mind. The mind has to become pure. The famous statement in St. Matthew's Bible, Sermon on the Mount, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Swami Vivekananda said, if all the religious teachings in the world vanish from off the face of the earth, this one sentence shall save the world. We call it in Sanskrit Chitta Shuddhi, Bhava Samshuddhi. Shuddhi means purity, Samshuddhi, extreme well purity. So this pure mind, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, is the same as the pure Buddhi and the pure Atman. Shuddha Buddhi, Shuddha Man, and Shuddha Atma are the same thing. What is Ashuddha Manas? What is impure mind? What makes the mind impure? Very simple. You have a lot of desires to fulfill, and desires agitate the mind. Think of a mind with no desires. Just close your eyes for a moment and imagine how I wish it were reality. I have no desires at all. I don't want anything from anybody in this world. I don't depend on anybody for anything. What freedom you feel. Desires pollute the mind, make it impure. And therefore, there is a famous statement in the Upanishad, this is Jnana Yoga. Mano hid vividham proktam ashuddham shuddhamevacha ashuddham kama sankalpam shuddham tu kama varjitam Brahmabandhu Upanishad. Mind is of two types. One is impure mind, the other is pure mind. Impure mind is that which is full of desires, and pure mind is that which is free from desire. Simple. That is why Shri Sharada Devi, the Holy Mother, said, Nirbhashana hole ekkhuni hobe. The moment you completely become free from desires and vasana, attachment, this moment you are free. This is the path of Jnana Yoga, which is very bold people. Another faculty of the mind is feeling, which is very common to everybody. Everybody feels, everybody loves. You have the idea of priyatva, a dearness. Something is very dear to you. You are attached to your car, you are attached to your wife and children, you are attached to your family, you are attached to your credit card, attached to your bank balance. So many things attract you and they are very dear to you. So now you ask the question, where does the dearness come from? The natural, spontaneous feeling of love which you feel, can this be harnessed for higher purposes? Once again, harping on this truth, there is nothing mystical, mysterious, philosophical about this. You want to find out the higher truths through the resources which you have. What are the resources which you have? The mind. What are the faculties of the mind? I said one is thinking, which is Jnana Yoga. The other is feeling. Through the power of love, can you harness it for higher purposes? If you have to focus love on something, you need a concrete object. You can't focus it on the air. Now, love this air, this akasha, the sky. You have to imagine the sky has a form, and human beings being human, they have to think of the reality in human form. This is a psychological necessity. This is called anthropomorphization. Very complicated word in English. Anthropomorphy means making something human. The moment you think of a higher reality, you think of him or her as a human being. But not exactly human, much more human, extraordinarily human, bordering on the divine. So what we do, all religions have done this. In India, we are very fond of imagining forms. highly imaginative people. So think of God like a human being, either male or female. In India we have female goddesses also. Years ago, when this feminism didn't come up, I think several decades ago, one of the Swamis in America wanted to speak on Durga Puja during the Divine Mother's worship. God is the mother. Hundreds of phone calls. How can God be the mother? God is the father. Now it's a big movement against it. The patriarchal society and ecofeminism and all that. We have gods and goddesses. They are human beings like us because only if they are like us we can relate to them. If they are divine and then they are a different form, you can't relate to them. Unless you relate to them, how can you love them? To be able to love somebody, you should be related to him or her. So think of a god or a goddess. He is like me, but not exactly like me. He is much more divine, much more powerful. So what do? With 2 hands, if I have this much power, give him 4 hands. See how the human mind is developing. I'm telling you how these models develop. How do you prove that this god or a goddess is more powerful than you are? You have 2 hands, he has 4. Oh, he should be very powerful. And why not 2 more? 6 hands, 8 hands, Ashtabhuja Durga. And we have gone to a ridiculous extent of 1,000 hands. Sahasrabhuja Tara. The idea is man wants to explain the majesty and the fullness of God, the greatness of God. How do you say he's so great? Like children. How much? This much. He has 1,000 hands. Oh, he should be extremely powerful. You have 2 eyes, he has 3 eyes. Trinayani. So this is how the human mind is developing. So take a model and pour your heart out to it. So take in divine form, and the easiest divine form to consider is the divinity which is incarnated as a human being on the earth as the avatar. All the religions, Christianity is very famous for it. You think of Jesus the Christ as the Son of God. You do not know who is God. He is majestically sitting somewhere in his throne. And he sent his beloved Son, Jesus the Christ, to liberate humanity. Jesus saves. Jesus loves you. So he has come as a human form. He is just like you and me, just two eyes and 2 hands, not more. Vibahudhari Bhuvi Ramakrishna. There's a stotra. This Ramakrishna fortunately has only 2 hands. He is like me. So you go near him to find out he is infinitely superior. He is divine. So to be able to love the avatara is much easier than loving a divine being who you cannot intuit. Kali, Durga, and some of these goddesses are so terrible, you feel afraid. And you have the elephant god, Ganesha. So many different forms are thrown up. But the human form in which God descends the avatara is the easiest which you can love and understand. So this is the paths of devotion by which you pour your heart out. What do you do to a person you love? Even in the ordinary love in the world, you think of him or her constantly, keep telephoning him, messaging him, emailing him. That means you always would like to be in touch. This is called yukta. Yujudhatu means to be contactual. And you want to be constantly in touch. It's called satata yukta, nitya yukta. These are the words used in the Bhagavad Gita. So you want to be constantly in touch with something who you love. And a moment of separation makes you so sad. The bhakti has been defined therefore by the Narada, the Bhakti Sutra. What is devotion? What is bhakti? Naradastu, so many definitions he gives, and Narada says, Naradastu tadarpita akhila acharata tad vismarane parama vyakulata iti. Narada defines bhakti as follows. Bhakti is offering all that you have to the Supreme Lord, and even a moment of separation from Him fills you with intensest misery. Every day in the Hollywood Center you chant, Swami Prabhavananda, the founder of the center, is very fond of this because he came to Vaishnava tradition. The famous stotra, hymn by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called the Sikshashtakam. Yugayitam nimeshena chakshusha pravrishayitam shunyayitam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me. Oh Govinda, oh Lord, even the moments of separation from you, it appears to be eons and ages, and tears flowed my cheeks and my hair stand on end. I just can't bear to be separated from you even for a moment. That's the idea of bhakti, in which you want to be constantly united with your beloved. Once again, how jnana enters into it. When we talk about the blending of yoga as an artificial blending, an artificial combination, you have to be feeling constantly the kind of unity and identity with your beloved, which is jnana. You feel that you not to be separated from him or her. You just can't bear separation. But separation is inevitable when you are at the level of the body. Separation is inevitable at the level of the mind. But separation cannot happen at the level of the spirit. So when you intensely probe into the idea of non-separateness from your beloved, you have to transcend the level of the body and the mind and go to the level of the spirit. That is why Swami Vivekananda defined bhakti as the worship of the spirit by the spirit. Unless you realize yourself as the spirit, you can't really love the spirit. You have to raise yourself to the level of the spirit, even infinitesimally feel that you are separate from the body and the mind, and then you will be able to love the spirit. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity except to love God and Him only to serve. Thomas A. Kempis, Imitation of Christ. Love thy God, thy beloved, with all thy soul, with all thy spirit. This has been taught in Christianity in 100,000 different ways. All that you need to do, pour your heart out. Ultimately, what happens to you? You don't remain as a separate entity and completely merge with your beloved. The Sufi mystics have spoken about this wonderfully. Tu gurita tu bhaya, mujhme rahi na tu hu. Vari tere naam par chit dekho tit hu. Kabir Das. Constantly calling you, and pouring my heart out to you, O my beloved God. I don't find me in me. And I've completely merged with you. Lali tere lal ki, jit dekho tit lal, lali dekhane maigi, mai bhi ho gayi lal. Lal is the beloved. Constantly think of the beloved, I became the beloved. So in bhakti, ultimately you merge into the beloved and become a jnani. The idea is, separation comes before the ego. How does separation come? How do I say I'm separate? You don't understand me. The me and you. Nor do you understand me. The quarrel. When the me asserts I, my opinion, my position, immediately there is a quarrel. When the I goes away, there's a complete peace and joy and merger. The aim of the Jnana Yoga is to find out the I and make the I so big that the entire world of relativity is subsumed and is lost into the world of the Absolute. And in bhakti, you take the I and reduce it to such an extent, infinitesimally smaller and smaller and smaller, it vanishes. The great poet Girish Chandra Ghosh, the Bohemian disciple of Swami Sri Ramakrishna, had a wonderful imagery. He said, the Mahamaya, the great enchantress of this universe, wanted to ensnare two people in her net. She threw the net like that. Two people couldn't be caught. One became so big that the net couldn't hold him. The other became so small that he escaped through the net. The first person was Swami Vivekananda. Through the path of jnana, you become so big, you realize you're the majestic, vast, infinite. Finite net cannot hold the infinite. How much big a net is necessary to completely hold the entire universe with all its galaxies. How big should that net be? You can't have such a net. And Nag Mahashaya, Durgacharan Nag, the household disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, was so humble, so egoless that simply sneaked through this net. This is bhakti and jnana. Those are two paradigms. It is not that jnana and bhakti have to be merged and blended. The moment the ego is taken away, what you call jnana is the same as bhakti. I'll give you a simple formula. The inquiry begins with koham. What is koham? Aham means I, ko means who. Who is the I? Who am I? The whole inquiry in the Indian spiritual wisdom begins with koham. When you begin with koham, you have two paths. You end up with soham, I am that infinite self. Or you end up with naham, I am nobody, God alone is. Koham channels you into either naham or soham, which are the same. What you call the zero is the same as infinity. The path of jnana and bhakti, therefore, merge in the Bhagavad Gita for the first time in history, perhaps. Vivekananda points out, blended these yogas. The Bhagavan Sri Krishna doesn't make any difference between jnana and bhakti. Those of you who are interested, you can note down these shlokas. One is 14:26. Mam chayo abhivacharena bhakti yogena sevate sugunan samatityetan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. That is the shloka. A person who is devoted to me with unswerving devotion, he becomes a knower of Brahman. That is the shloka. And the opposite is said in the 18th chapter, 1855, 1856. Ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodham parigraham vimucya nirmama shanto brahmabhuyaya kalpate brahmabhuta prasannatmana shochati nakankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. A person who becomes brahmabhuta, knower of Brahman, he knows me in my entirety and gets para bhakti, supreme devotion. So the 14th chapter says you get bhakti, you get jnana through bhakti. The 18th chapter says you get bhakti through jnana, which means jnana and bhakti are not two different things at all. This was pointed to me by the revered Swami Smarananandaji, the present Vice President. What about the other two paths, yoga, Raja Yoga and Karma Yoga? Proverbially, the acharyas don't give much importance to these two yogas, except by saying that preliminary disciplines. Swami Vivekananda first time made them independent paths. Karma Yoga is necessary, all the acharyas agree, so that you can have chitta shuddhi, the purity of the mind, which is the sine qua non and the fundamental prerequisite for the pursuance of any yoga. Mind has to be purified through nishkama karma yoga, selfless work. Selfless work is a very difficult thing, which will no time now to discuss it. When you realize that the fruits of work really don't belong to you, then the attachment to the fruits of work ceases. You ask yourself, do the fruits of work really belong to you? I'll give you a simple example. At the end of the talk, you may be fed, and you eat your fill and very happy. Oh, I had a wonderful lunch. Do you apply for a 2 days casual leave to be able to digest that food? Nobody does it. Because who digests it? I don't know. It gets digested. I don't digest it. Prakriti, nature, the laws of nature, the biological laws, they digest it. So I have no role in anything that I do. I am speaking to you. What is my role in the speaking? Swami, your lecture was excellent. I did good lecture. You fool, it's not your lecture. You didn't speak. You are made to speak. Even if you don't believe in God, nature makes you speak. Some ideas in my brain, fortunately, unfortunately, they come through the tongue, and the tongue is rotating so fast inside the mouth without getting bitten by the teeth. It's a miracle. I always wonder how the tongue is moving so fast without getting bitten. And they come out through the mouth, travel to your ears, and your eardrum tympanum vibrates, and the nerves take you to your brain, and the nerves in the brain, they interpret this as a particular sentence or a word. The series of words make a sentence, series of sentences make a paragraph, and then you immediately realize the meaning of this. It takes much more time to describe it than to happen. How does this happen? Do you and me do it? Just analyze your experience. So if you get into the habit of constantly analyzing your daily experience, you are practicing religion, you are practicing meditation, you are practicing philosophy. You are not responsible for the response which you have, for the understanding which you have. I am not responsible for the talk which I have given. Prakriti takes care. And Prakriti being jada, being insentient, can't really do it without a supreme intelligence which is informing it. That supreme intelligence, you call it God, you call it Brahman or Atman, by any name. So he is doing everything, then why do you ask for rewards? I'll give you another example. In India, people come unannounced, and anybody coming unannounced is called a god. Atithi Devo Bhava. It's a very interesting, culturally how different it is. In the West, in America, you say there is no free lunch. You have to pay for everything. In hotels, you can't imagine it in India. In hotels, you have to pay for water. I ask for a bottle of water, you have to pay for it. For water, you have to pay. God gives you water free. Fortunately, they don't charge for the air which circulates, unless it is air conditioned. So Atithi, suddenly some people come to you. 10 people came to you. Please, it's mandatory for the household to offer them food. You can't turn away an Atithi without offering him something to eat. So the ladies in the house were very worried, what should we do? So now we have the pressure cooker, electrically operated, and we have a very beautiful dish to make, which is called khichuri. It's very famous in the Ramakrishna order, which contains dal and rice, carbohydrate and protein. That's all that you need. Put some potatoes, plenty of them in Bengal, and then put it there, pour some water, switch on the electricity. After an hour, it's ready. Suppose the person who switched on the electric switch says, I'm so tired, I cooked for 10 people. Did you cook it, or did the electricity cook it? If electricity cooked it, electricity should be tired, not you. If God's energy is working through you, if God's energy is doing all that you're doing, God should be tired, not you. And God says, I'm never tired. Does God ever sleep? This question was posed by Sri Ramakrishna to Latu Maharaj Swami Atmapriyananda. Then he said, oh fool, if God slept, the whole world will go to pieces. Yadi aham navarteyam jatukarman atandrita. The Gita, atandra means sleep. The Lord is ever awake so that we can sleep in peace. All the beings in the world, human beings, animals, birds, fishes, and the entire universe is put to rest, put to sleep. And God oversees all of them. Oh, my children, sleep peacefully. I am here ever awake. That is the Supreme Lord. Can't you raise your heart in prayer and say, oh God, thanks. That is meditation. That is prayer. That is religion. Are we so ungrateful that we can't say that? So why do you usurp what does not belong to you and say, I have done this? You have done nothing. Nature has made it, if you don't believe in God. Or God does it. God's energy is making everything possible. The sun and the moon and the planets and the nebulae are moving in their orbit exactly by God's calculation. And the atoms and the molecules and the protons and the electrons, the subatomic particles are constantly in their place only by God's will. I am talking to you, I am eating and moving and sleeping. Every little act of mine is being completely overseen, informed, regulated by a supreme power. Why should you get the credit for it? God, in His infinite mercy, gives you some credit already. Your ego be pleased. You write a little stupid book, compiling from so many sources, compiled by Swami Atmapriyananda in bold letters, and I claim I have written a book. Did you write it? You have compiled it from so many sources. Now it's very easy to copy paste from the Google. All the credit should go to Google. The Google God is the great Hiranyagarbha, the Ishvara. But unfortunately, the Google is Jada. If Google had consciousness, it will be called Hiranyagarbha or Ishvara. Somebody wrote a beautiful arati for Google. You heard it? Jaya Jaya Google Hare Jaya. You should be infinitely grateful to the Google for giving you any information that you want. In 0.001 second, it can give you 100,000 pieces of information. So the human brain is operating with that power. But somebody is informing this brain. Constantly I'm walking. I used to, from childhood, I used to ask this kind of silly questions and became a monk finally. I said, how am I able to walk? Friction. If friction were not there, you will not be able to walk. If there be no dust in this universe, we will not get rains. We criticize dust. Oh, it's so dirty, dusty, clean it. Dust is sacred. That's why in India, we always talk about the dust at the feet of God. Padarenu. Dust particles form the nucleus in which rain is pouring. See, every little particle in this entire universe has a purpose, has a meaning, because God's power is transmitted through that. One of the greatest scientists of all time, Albert Einstein, once said, "My religion consists of a humble adoration of an illimitable intelligence which our minds can only intuit in the most primitive form. The supreme intelligence which is running this entire affairs of the universe." So Karma Yoga gives you the shuddhi, the purity, by which you realize and think, I am not responsible for anything that I do or think, accomplish. All my thoughts, all my accomplishments, all my movements are all completely informed and done by God. Therefore, don't usurp credit for it. If you steal the credit which belongs to God, and you'll get tight slaps on your cheeks. That's what we get when you overmuch dance around and say, I have done this. The kartrutva buddhi, the sense of agency, I have done this, is obliterated through karma yoga, and you become ready for jnana or bhakti. Raja Yoga is a technique by which you keep your mind and body pure to be able to catch the infinite vibration. There are so many steps which are mentioned there. The essence of the whole thing is the mind and body have to be prepared to be able to catch the infinite vibration. Just like you operate the computer, first go through the antivirus program, and you keep the whole thing, defragmentation, so many unnecessary information being stored there, that's Raja Yoga. So your mind has to be cleansed of all the impurities which has, once again the Chitta Shuddhi. So all the four yogas merge into that one little concept of egolessness. That's why Swami Vivekananda said, it is self-abnegation. Exactly the same thing was preached by Buddha through the theory of anatta. The moment you realize in bhakti that I am nobody, God alone is, not I, but thou. Or in Jnana Yoga, say, I am that infinite consciousness, absolute, all-pervading. Or in Karma Yoga, I am not the agency, God alone is the doer. Or through Raja Yoga, in which you realize that which you are is that self which is completely detached from Prakriti. So you can practice all of them together. Vivekananda said, by one or more or all of these and be free. This is the whole of religion. And the entire message of Swami Vivekananda in the Ramakrishna order has been picturized by Swami Vivekananda in a remarkable diagram which he drew, which perhaps welled up from the mind of this great rishi in a stroke of artistic and spiritual genius, that you see the emblem of the Ramakrishna Mission, which is somewhere here. Here is said, the wavy waters of the ocean are symbolic of karma, the lotus is symbolic of bhakti, and the rising sun symbolic of jnana, while the encircling serpent is symbolic of Raja Yoga and the Kundalini Shakti awakened, and the swan in the picture represents the Paramatman. So the meaning of the picture, according to him, is that by a combination harmonious blending of jnana, bhakti, karma and yoga, the vision of the Paramatman is obtained. So you can take any of these yogas and take some or more of them. Same person can practice all of the different occasions according to your feeling, according to your necessity. Sometimes you feel very devotional to God. You feel like singing. Sometimes you feel very dry. Let me analyze. Sometimes you want to be very active. Sometimes you want to be contemplative, meditate. Whatever mood seizes you, take that up and live a life of divinity. The Bhagavad Gita ends by saying, what happens to a person who realizes the Supreme? It does not talk about anything else. Vishuddha Advaita, Advaita, Radvaita. Vishate tadanantaram. Anantaram, thereafter, tad, that Vishate enters. He enters into divine life. Our whole life becomes divine. And when you realize yourself as divine, all that you see around becomes divine. And divinity, interacting with divinity, interpersonal relationship will become divine. And your whole life will be a blessing to yourself and to humanity. This is the great message which Swami Vivekananda gave to humanity through this diagram, and he wanted to actualize this through an order of monks and devotees. All of you belong to this. All of us belong to this extraordinary conception of Swami Vivekananda. Let us take this forward, think about this, meditate on this, rejoice at it, and actualize it in our daily life for our own good and for everybody's good. Bahujana hitaya, bahujana sukhaya. For the good of the many, for the happiness of the many. Thank you. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. That is infinite and this too is infinite. When infinity emerges from the infinite, infinite alone remains. Om, peace, peace, peace.